Sim racing has blown up over the course of the past year due to lockdowns and the rise in popularity of Formula One, especially in the United States by way of the Drive to Survive Netflix series. In recent years, two of us here at No Time Gamer have made the jump from arcade racing with controllers to sim games with wheels, pedals, and racing seats to have the best sim experience possible. But we didn't break the bank doing so. What do you need to have a good time and how much will it cost? You'll find out those answers and more in our Busy Gamer's Guide to Sim Racing. Welcome back to No Time Gamer. Subscribe to make sure your gaming sessions are time well spent. A good reference point to start is that the more time you put into sim racing, the more success you'll find, and the more enjoyment will likely follow. Depending on what your intentions with sim racing are, this could be the first obstacle. If you just want to hot lap by yourself or compete in single-player career modes, feel free to turn down the difficulty and enable as many assists as you need. But if you have intentions to compete in online races and leagues, then you'll need to commit a decent amount of time to learn the cars, tracks, and characteristics of the game or games you intend to play. To a certain extent, this does apply to how much money you intend to spend too. You don't need anything more than a console and a controller to get started, but investing in a basic wheel and pedal package plus a seat can take you into a whole new world. Or if building your own setup, as seen countless times on Reddit, is in your wheelhouse, that's an option too. We're using the Logitech G920 and the Thrustmaster TMX Pro, which are great entry-level options that cost right around $250. We both also picked up a Playseat Challenge racing seat after some time racing with the wheels for about $250. The seat isn't necessary, but we'll explain more later on why we decided a seat was well worth it to us. You might want to use some gloves while driving to protect your wheel from your hand oils and sweat, but that's up to you. If your plans are to play on the console or PC that you already own, that's all you really need to worry about for physical purchases, as the performance return drops off quickly as you spend more and more. You might want an H-pattern shifter, but the paddles on your wheel will work fine regardless of the car you're driving, and a handbrake may serve as a useful early purchase if you intend to do any off-road racing or rallying. Buying better equipment will not make you faster if you don't learn the basics and commit to actually learning how racing works. Sim racing isn't 100% accurate compared to the real thing, but many games are close enough that all the key principles still apply. Okay, so now you have your equipment and it's all set up. How do you know what game to play? You might have heard of iRacing before, and for good reason. It's the king of online racing, but it's not where we would recommend you get started for a few reasons. First of all, it's expensive. At regular price, you need to pay $9.99 per month, and that only gives you access to a limited amount of content. After progressing with your license, you'll have to buy individual cars and tracks that cost about $10 or $15 each. That can quickly add up and be wasteful if you don't know what kinds of racing series you enjoy. It's not available on consoles either, so that already makes it inaccessible to a large number of aspiring drivers. This may seem controversial to veteran sim racers, but we think Project Cars 2 is the perfect place to get your feet wet. You can grab it on sale for under $10 regularly. It's available on PC and consoles, and it's playable on wheel and controller. It gives you access to hundreds of tracks and cars across many disciplines. The game features a fairly in-depth career mode that lets you rise through the ranks like a real driver would. However, with the amount of content on offer, the quality of each piece isn't perfect compared to some other more focused games, but it will let you get a taste of many tracks and car combos so you can figure out what you like, from GT3s to Formula One, LMP1s to street cars and rallycross. Assetto Corsa is another great option if you're on PC and have the know-how to set up mods. Once you've figured out what you like, you can move on to other games like the F1 series, Dirt Rally, or Assetto Corsa Competizione, or if you really want to compete online, iRacing. If you already know exactly what series you like, there's no harm in hopping into one of those games first instead. Let us know what game you think you'll try out first in the comments. After hopping into a game for the first time, you'll want to adjust a few settings to make sure your game experience is as accurate as you can make it. First of all, you need to be playing on the right field of view. We will leave a link down below so you can calculate what this should be based on your screen size and distance from the screen. It'll likely be smaller than you expect, but it puts you right where you should be in space for the car. You can raise this a little if you want, but you don't want to do more than a few degrees, as any more than that will start to make things worse. You need to calibrate your wheel and pedals too. Each game does this a little differently, but it all comes to the same result. We recommend adjusting the sensitivity of your brake pedals so you don't need to push them down as hard, especially if you don't have a racing seat. What's great about the Playseat Challenge or any custom seat is that the pedals and seat are connected, so when you press hard on the brakes, you don't push your chair away from the pedals or the pedals away from you. This stability easily gives you tenths on your time in every corner. Wearing shoes while driving can also help with your braking ability, as the force is spread out across the shoe. too. One more point about the Playseat Challenge specifically, it is great if you don't have a lot of space because it folds up and can be stored easily. Let's talk about fundamentals. If you have very little experience in racing, there's a few things to keep in mind. You can't win races or drive fast in general if you can't control your car and keep it on the track. So before you consider doing multiplayer racing, we think it's best for you, and your online opponents too, that you understand the basics. The first and one of the most important things is that you need to get to know your car. Understanding how your car handles, brakes, puts power down to the tarmac, and where the grip limit is can make all the difference in your lap times. If you don't have a handle on your car and understand how to get the most performance out of it, you will not be as successful as you want. Many games have a host of assists to ease your learning curve on track, including traction and stability control, anti-lock brakes, automatic gearing, and more. Feel free to use these to your liking to make your gaming experience the most fun for you, but most sim racers will argue that assists take away the realism of sim racing, and we'd agree. Though it might be more challenging, driving without assists is much more rewarding and arguably faster too. But don't feel pressured to make things harder than they need to be while getting started. The assist that we would recommend if you're a complete beginner, but to leave behind as quickly as possible, is the driving line. It will help you get started, but the more you use it, the more you'll rely on it. Driving without it will give you better instincts towards getting your car around the circuit faster. Using the line will teach you how to position your car for corners, going wide, making the straightest line possible, hitting the apex, and coming out on the other side with speed. What it will not teach you is how to use reference points on the track or how to adapt for different lines when needed. Many tracks have braking boards going into corners that tell you how far away from the turn you are. If you know you have to brake at 200 meters, you can better prepare your car for getting around that corner as fast as possible. These reference points, whether braking boards or other consistent features like a change in track surface, are critical to nailing your lap. The best drivers have many reference points throughout the corner, but having one to start braking is required to be consistent. Utilizing practice sessions is something unfamiliar to those coming from arcade racing. Sim racing isn't about storming through 10 plus cars in 3-lap sprints and then moving on to the next circuit. Taking the time to drive the tracks by yourself, learning the ins and outs of how your car reacts, is part of the process of getting quicker. It's a fundamental part of sim racing, and it might sound boring, but this endless learning process where there's always time to be cut off your lap is what sim and real drivers are constantly pushing towards. You won't be fast until you can drive almost subconsciously. If you're constantly thinking about every pedal and button press and wheel turn, you will be slower than if you were doing it as second nature. This leads us into the next topic, tuning and setups. Learning how to properly tune and set up your car to best suit both the track you're driving and your driving style can shave loads of time off your laps. Most games offer preset tunes, but beware, these are often not great setups and can sometimes hurt more than they can help. We won't go too in-depth in this video because we could spend hours talking about setups alone, and there are tons of channels out there that are dedicated to talking about car setups for your game of choice. If you're serious about sim racing and want to gain a competitive advantage, you'll want to learn how to create setups and what each setting will affect on the track so that you can extract peak performance from your car. Even the smallest things like adjusting tire pressures can have a massive impact. If you're not interested in learning about fine-tuning the perfect setup, there are still a few setup-related options you should know about. Always try to run the lowest fuel possible for the distance of your race. Some games will tell you how much fuel you use per lap, and you can calculate the total needed based on the race length. Also, be sure to always have on the optimal tire. If it's raining, have the wet tires on. If it's really hot, consider a harder compound if the game allows it. On your first lap out of pit lane, drive more cautiously to not ruin your tires. They will be cold and less responsive coming out of the pits. If you spin out and skid across the track at a high speed, you will flat spot your tires and essentially ruin them until you get back into the pits for a new set. Depending on the game and settings, you might be able to disable tire and fuel wear in single player, but just like other assists, we don't recommend that as those changes are important to understand. Once you're comfortable driving around the circuit consistently without crashing, then we recommend you can start doing online racing. Heading into your first multiplayer race, you need to understand that you are not Lewis Hamilton. Racing against humans is completely different from racing against computer drivers. Humans can be unpredictably chaotic. You will likely face off against drivers lapping seconds faster than you too, and that's okay. Your first priority should be to drive cleanly and complete the race with as few mistakes as possible. Remember, to finish first you must finish. Overdriving your car and crashing into people won't help you progress through the pack. If you do your best to avoid the chaos, which you won't always be able to do by no fault of your own, you will find that you can place somewhat high in the lobby by just keeping your car on the track. It will likely take months of practicing to get to a point where you're winning online lobbies, unless you're some kind of prodigy. So enjoy the process of trying to continually get better laps and the thrill of fighting closely with other drivers around your same speed. While online racing, you'll want to keep a few things in mind that are different from hot lapping by yourself. While trailing behind someone, you'll have to brake a little sooner than if you were by yourself. It might seem obvious, but many people don't understand that and run right into the backs of other cars while racing in a pack. This goes the other way too. If you're in the front and brake too early, you might just get thrown off the track yourself by someone very close behind you. So be aware of how other racers are driving and hope they do the same for you. There's a certain amount of racing etiquette that you need to be aware of online, and it's really easy to remember as most of the principles are just how you'd want other drivers to treat you on the track. You don't want to do a full send into a corner to pass a car when you know you have about a 10% chance of not hitting that car mid-corner. Additionally, if you're about to be passed or are going for a pass, be sure to leave enough room on the track for the other car. Cutting someone off who clearly has better pace than you is a definite no-no. You can take risks to create passes and drive defensively to keep your position, but keep it clean and within reason. You must remember that not every other driver will play nicely. Some might even try to wreck you on purpose if you pass them, and that's just the way it goes in public lobbies. If you want to get away from those drivers, and trust us, you will, leagues are a great option to enhance your racing experience. You can often find leagues on Reddit or just a simple Google search, and you'll be able to claim a seat in no time. Many leagues will want to see you prove your race pace to earn a seat in a particular racing tier, but there are other leagues out there that will accept any driver, which is a good way to get your feet wet with more experienced drivers and will ultimately give you the chance to race against drivers who are racing to compete, not wreck into you and everyone else on track. You'll probably race every week on the same night, but typically you aren't required to be at every race in case something comes up and you can't make it. We've covered a lot of ground here, and we've barely scratched the surface. This may seem like a lot to take in, and that's because it is. Sim racing is a complicated universe and could take up a ton of your time if you want it to. That doesn't mean you have to play for several hours a day, every day, to have fun. Like all hobbies, you can invest as little or as much time as you want. If you have less time to dedicate, it might take you longer to get up to speed with the more experienced drivers out there, but that doesn't mean that spending time practicing and shaving precious tenths off your lap times, or running just a couple short races during a time-limited gaming session isn't satisfying. In fact, we think sim racing is one of the most satisfying gaming experiences out there because you can fine-tune it to be exactly what you want it to be. From Daytona to Monaco to the Australian countryside, there's a game out there with the tracks and cars to meet your needs. If you're looking to dive in and take sim racing very seriously, we'll leave some links down below to some useful videos and books to get you started. What are your thoughts on sim racing? Have any questions? Let us know in the comments below.